Hey everyone, it's Daniel Elwood and Robert Paul Johnson. We are the Last Nighters. You can find us on lastnighters.com and also on the Liberty Movement. This is episode 158 of the show. You can find the show notes tomorrow at lastnighters.com/158. And we're going to be talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, as many of us would like to have a fresh start in this new year and completely forget about the events of 2020. We feel it's only appropriate to talk about this Jim Carrey flick where he's playing against type. And in another example similar to our last movie on Wonder Woman 1984, you got to be careful what you wish for, and that's very much played out in this one. And we didn't forget to welcome back our great guest, Raylene Lightheart, who has been on with us numerous times in the past, most recently for Contagion, but she was also here for Karate Kid. And I think, was it When Harry Met Sally? That sounds about right.
Yeah. Did we do Kick-Ass also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we also did do Kick-Ass. So... yeah, you've been on a bunch of times, and we always have a good time with you. And I want to extend apologies that we haven't had you on more recently than what was it?
Kick-Ass.
When was Kick-Ass? It must have been maybe in May, June.
I don't know. It's been the weirdest year ever. Honestly, let's just do this. We all cool. We cool. We'll do it again. We cool. You're busy till April though.
I've lost all concept of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we should all just have a little grace for ourselves and others right now about what we wear and look like and what day it is and not knowing. So whatever. We're not codependent people.
Well, so Raylene, you mentioned that you've been taking a bit of a hiatus from appearances and doing a show, but are you working on a project that you want to refer people to or a place they can go?
No, just find me on Facebook, Raylene Lightheart, or on Twitter, which is Raylene Amber. Raylene Amber is my tag, and but I will be starting something soon. So I've been kind of in the field doing the research. So I'm definitely doing something about healing through anarchy, the principles of anarchy, and kind of had like a vision. About almost 2 years ago, and I was kind of praying on it and meditating and asking God what I was supposed to be doing next. And he told me, he laughed at me, honestly, is what I felt, and said, "You're already doing it. And it's all about God and the kids," is what I heard. And so I realize now that this world is a really messed up place and people's trauma is really, really present. And I can see it now. I see all the patterns and I understand things so much better. And so my passion is about bringing free market economics and the principles of anarchy into our lives and social situations, relationships, and self-love. So that's what I want to do. Yeah. So podcast coming soon. Yeah.
All right, judges, what do we rate that answer from Miss Washington here?
You can just fart noise it. I don't care. It's cool. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, we were doing sound effects earlier. So we usually start this off with the old Google description. I'm going to try a new thing here. We're talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Nice sound effects. Thank you, Robert. So if you guys are watching the YouTube, you can see the logo has now prominently been displayed over us as we head on over to the Google description. And then I got to remove it so we can see what we're talking about here. So Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind came out 2004. It's rated R. It's a romance/sci-fi film, 1 hour and 45 minutes, though I think that the sci-fi is a little bit of a not quite a proper categorization here. You got 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 93% Rotten Tomatoes, 89% Metacritic, and 93% of Google users liked it. Also, Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars, I think, initially, but then upon further review, he gave it 4 stars and put it in one of his best movies lists. So here's the description. It says, after a painful breakup, Clementine, played by Kate Winslet, undergoes a procedure to erase memories of her former boyfriend, Joel, played by Jim Carrey, from her mind. When Joel discovers that Clementine is going to extremes to forget their relationship, he undergoes the same procedure and slowly begins to forget the woman that he loved. Directed by former music video director Michel Gondry, the visually arresting film explores the intricacy of relationships and the pain of loss. Came out March 19th, 2004. Screenplay is by Charlie Kaufman, and he had a series of films around this time that are all mind-bending, almost surrealist style movies. The other ones were Adaptation and then Being John Malkovich. So I think that he has a very interesting writing style, and I think it worked out really well in this particular movie. But Robert, let's go to you for your opening salvo, please.
All right. So, Esoticism is a movie that I saw probably back when it came out. Like you said, Charlie Kaufman had come out with Being John Malkovich, and that was kind of his big breakout production. And he got a lot of like clout, and he was able to do a lot of good creative things. Like I think he's one of those writers that like the studio doesn't interfere with. Like I don't even know if they would know what to do if they did try to interfere. Like I think he's just way smarter than all these other people. And he's like, no, trust me, this is a good story, blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, yeah, give it to him. He's like one of these auteurs that you just give him a bunch of money and then he just does something cool with. Same with Michel Gondry, who is, I believe, French, and I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he did Gondry. He did a bunch of like Foo Fighters music videos, like Everlong and a few other ones where he plays with size and I don't know. It's almost dreamlike. His videos are very much dreamlike. In this movie, it seems like to be the ultimate pairing of this really interesting, talented writer and this director who is not afraid of playing with time and space and dreams and just, in a lesser hands, this movie would probably be some sort of a disaster. Like what is actually happening? But in these guys' capable hands, I was transported for, the runtime, like the entire runtime. I was totally into what was happening. Very little happens. This is my definition of a simple story told in an interesting way. It's just the story of these two people who have gotten tired of each other, and the lady says, I want to forget about this guy. And then the guy's like, what? And heartbroken. And so then he wants to forget about her. It all comes together in this third act that kind of took me by surprise about how well it all wrapped up. Like at first there's the receptionist who you're like, why is she in this? What is she doing? Like, I understand why the techs are involved, but what part is she going to play in the actual story? But then when she actually does, she finds out that she's had the procedure too. And so she gets upset. And then she sends the tapes out to all the people who have done the thing. And so then you have this awesome climax at the end where the characters are listening to themselves complain about their partner. And it's just a really hard, emotionally hitting finale that, man, I think this is his best work. I haven't seen all of Charlie Kaufman's stuff. But this is the favorite thing that I've seen. Being John Malkovich was crazy and fun and interesting, but this is, it's like it hits me in the feels. It gets me in the romance feels. And then it's just this amazing journey that you go on that really doesn't go far, but it covers a wide range of emotion. And fantastic film. I freaking love it. So I'm excited to hear what Raylene has got to say about it. I'm excited to see what Dan has to say about it. But this film is earned all of the accolades that it got. And probably, I don't know if it made a ton of money. This is some sort of like art house type of movie. But it definitely is one of those hidden gems that deserves a wide audience.
Yeah, I can speak to the money a little bit. I think the budget was about $22 million, and it got a worldwide box office of $74 million. So they made their money back, but it wasn't like a huge box office hit or anything like that. But it has retroactively made a whole bunch a whole bunch of like best movie lists, like top 50, top 10, top movies of the decade or whatever. So it did age really, really well. And I think people started picking up on it a little bit more and really appreciating it. And you're right, it is crafted really, really well. And there isn't a lot really in the length of the story, like there's not a lot like progression going on, but there's a whole lot of like going out into the little different tendrils of the story that makes it really, really interesting. And it does fold into itself very nicely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this is interesting. I don't know exactly Kaufman's inspiration for the movie, but it reminded me of Tennyson's quote, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all."
It was the Pope Alexander Pope quote was what inspired it, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the actually thing where he's talking about the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. This is a great movie. This movie is big in its idea, and it does the macro and the micro so beautifully. Every little tiny sigh and word and facial expression matters. I think they do such a delicious job. This movie did not get nearly enough love when it came out. It was shocking. I was trying to make everybody I knew watch it. I'd never experienced a movie that is romantic with both so much hope and so much ugliness, and pain in how ugly you can be with somebody that you love and still walk out feeling hopeful and lighter, even though. And I think that anybody who's had a relationship with somebody that they loved, but where they came with their own trauma and their own pain bodies, and then those pain bodies danced. Everybody's been in a relationship like that, I think. And I think that they portrayed it so beautifully, and all the things that they fell in love with each other for ended up becoming resented in certain ways and misunderstood. And not only that, but what's so cool about these two characters who play, wouldn't you say, very opposite characters? She's outgoing and she's emotional, and he is introverted and more quiet, and he thinks he's boring. She thinks he's boring.
The thing I like about it also, not only that, is that the actors and actresses themselves are actually the opposite of what they portray.
Yeah, so they played each other. Yeah, and how they really are in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So she's more of the quiet introvert and a different type of intellectual, and he's a more outgoing, wild person, right? I love that they both play two sides of the same coin because they're almost the same character. They just present it differently. I mean, throughout the entire movie, you're seeing their insecurities be so similar. They both feel like they're fake. It really, you watch them and they're both saying things that mean the same exact thing. They both feel like frauds. They both feel like they're fakers and posers, and they're just trying to figure out who they are. And they both feel like they're not brave, and they both feel like, so she runs when she's not brave, and he quiets down and doesn't say anything. And she says everything, he says nothing, but it's all because of the same pain bodies and the same things that are motivating them and insecurities. It is just lovely. I love the memories that they do and the weird forced perspectives with the camera angles. Just everything is so lovely. And you're right, with the Kirsten Dunst plays Mary, and Mary is such a charming, delightful little character. Like, you just love looking at her. You love watching her, and the way that she interacts with Howard, her boss, she is so sweet in the way that she looks at him and talks to him and is trying to be professional at her job. And the way when she's getting stoned with Mark Ruffalo on the bed while he's getting his memories erased, and they're smoking the joint, and he's talking to her about these deep things, and then she just interrupts like she's talking about what he is, but it's about Howard, and how you can tell that no matter when she is, she's attracted to Howard. She really does love him. And then to find out what happened and at the end or later in the movie, wow. And when you hear the tapes and she starts to cry and says, I can't do this, and he coerces her into erasing her memory, that chills in my body right now. There are some beautiful themes. What you'll do to run from pain, what pain you'll live with to have love. I mean, this is complex stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that the premise is really interesting, and they kind of show you when there's other patrons in the lobby, like one has, her dog's stuff, and the other guy is like been in there a bunch of times, and they're like, you can't come in like more than once a month or something like that, because people just keep coming back and coming back, so it becomes a bit of a crutch, so I think that really it's a way of not dealing with the trauma of a situation and not processing it properly. And I gotta think that actually ends up stunting people. Like it shields them from the consequences of their choices, or learning from their mistakes, or learning from their experiences. So in the end, I think that this would actually be a very terrible thing for people to do, even if it, were something that was possible.
Yeah, you would stunt your emotional growth, wouldn't you? It sure seems like you would.
Right.
Now, if we could get, oh, sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
I was just thinking, like, I've gone through painful experiences, emotional experiences. My wife might deny that I have emotions at all, but I have had, breakups and loss and things like that. And, if you don't go through those things, then you don't learn how to deal with them when they happen again, or similar things, right?
Or how to not do them again, or what you need to work on inside of yourself so you don't feel this way or put yourself in that position or somebody else in that position. I mean, this is the first time I watched it, I felt like something was made that got me, because my husband and I, we've been together for almost 20 years. We had a really bad breakup, and it devastated me. It broke my heart, and I was so guarded and so afraid of being vulnerable that he was trying to test whether I wanted to be with him. So he does this, like, maybe we should break up thing. We were young, we were early 20s. Okay. And when he said maybe we should break up, I was like, and I went, yeah, okay, right. And I had like a an emotional breakdown that nobody saw. I was just like completely insane for like 4 or 5 months. I swear, like just not dealing, just run. I'm going to go fishing at 3 a.m. every day. That's what I'm going to go do. I mean, like literally. And I asked him, like, this year, I said, did I ever say, like, I'm mad that you're breaking up? Why? You hurt my feelings. Did I ever ask you about that? And he goes, no. So I thought that you wanted it the whole time. And then my feelings were hurt. And I go, oh my gosh. It was just like so afraid of being vulnerable. I mean, that's what's going on with these people, is their trauma. I didn't understand what trauma was then when I watched it the first time. Now I watch it and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, now I see why they all did these things. How I've grown, and now I can empathize with this movie on a whole nother level. Sorry, Robert, what were you saying?
No, I'm glad you guys went personal, because I was about to go personal, and then you guys went personal. So that's great.
Robert rants personal style.
I was going to say that I had a previous relationship where whenever she would break up with somebody, she completely did this movie. She would purge everything that reminded her of him from her life. So if she had a picture of him, or anything they bought together, or any kind of little memorabilia, she'd like chuck it in the garbage. He's gone. I'm in with this new person and starting fresh, totally blank slate. Here we go.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was over at a mutual friend's house, and for some reason, this mutual friend starts digging around in my pockets, and she pulls out my wallet, and she starts going through my wallet. And I felt a little bit violated, but I'm like, okay, where are you going with this? Whatever.
Boundaries. Hello.
Yeah. And she's digging and digging and digging, and she finds this old photograph that was in amongst massive amounts of crap in my wallet. I'm one of those George Costanza wallet people.
It's a friend
that just collects stuff.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I do a purge, but it's like every once in a long while.
Yeah.
Anyway, she found this picture of one of my exes. And both of them were super mad at me. Like I was just a piece of shit that I would have this old picture of an ex in my wallet that I carried around with me. And I go, well, you know, I'm not one of those people that purges the stuff from my past relationships. I treasure the time I had with that person, even though it didn't necessarily work out. I appreciate all of the different things that we did. And I want to remember the good times and learn from the bad times. And I don't know, this idea of purging all this stuff, like we've talked about, just seems like you're not dealing with loss and learning how to get past and grow as a person. I don't know. I'm not trying to humble brag or whatever. I'm just saying that
it can be both. It can be weird. Okay. Like keeping every little, here's the cool thing is that I did keep a lot of little stuff from like high school or, you know, like just weird.
I didn't have an altar of each person.
No. But I had a box like just from all my old crap. It's with all my old pictures and stuff. And I was going through it and I'm like, I don't need any of these pictures of these people anymore. I'd been with my husband for so long. I'm finally done with it. I'm finally like, oh, I can get rid of all this now. But for a long time, I liked that I was allowed to keep it. I think I don't want to be told I have to. I don't like that. Don't push me. I can do what I want to when I feel like it. But I mean, I have now gotten rid of all that. I don't need it anymore. I know now it's probably from total safety and security with my person and where I am in my life. But I definitely was a keeper of things. So also your ex was being kind of a turd. And here's the thing. If you're not a liar and you're telling the truth, oh, I didn't even know that was in there, then you're being stupid for being mad. Like, what a dumb drama little move. I'm sorry. Girls are taught this through media. They are taught this through watching other relationships, watching their big sisters, watching their neighbors, watching their mothers. I bet I am dead. And a lot of it's from movies. A lot of it's from TV. Manufactured drama to prove something to ourselves that's toxic femininity, in my opinion. And we are taught that, and we learn through mimicry as children. But creating a drama out of everything, like you're a stupid person for believing your boyfriend when he says it's not a big deal to me. Like, you have to look at this person. Are they a liar? Listen to your gut, really empath and understand. Are they lying? If not, then relax, you know? I just wish that everybody was taught to relax a little bit and stop looking for a problem. Because I'm sorry that happened to you. Especially going through your wallet like that really makes you want to double down on your privacy boundaries when people do stuff like that. Especially it's like a setup. Jeez, relax. Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah, she shouldn't have been in there in the first place. So should have been non-issue.
Yeah, you let her do it. So obviously you didn't think you were going to be in trouble. I mean... Like, use your brain.
I mean, I didn't like snatch it back from her and being like, no, you can't see what's in there because clearly I have top secret stuff that is going to get.
You didn't even know it was in there, obviously. Like, the whole point is, no. Like,
was it because it's so like robust that they're like, oh my god, look at that wallet, it's so full. I got to see what's in this thing. It's just they have to know. It's from
like,
all the bets
the Batman card. It's like black infinite.
Let me ask you guys about some characters, can I?
Yeah,
what
let's
do you
go.
think of Patrick?
Let's talk about characters. What's that?
What do you think about Patrick?
He's a piece of shit.
So I thought he was slimy and sad. If he's like one of those psychopaths that doesn't know how to act like a human being, and so he has to pretend to be somebody else in order to seem like a human. I thought he was sad. I mean, obviously he's a slimy piece of crap, but yeah, I felt a little bit sad about him.
He wasn't just a beta. He was like a gamma beta. Like, what was that? That was bad. He was
emulating another beta. Like, yeah.
I mean, that's bad. I know. He played it so. Elijah Wood's a great actor. By the way, if you have not seen Dirk Gently, the TV show, give it a chance. Okay. There's 2 versions. I think there's a British version and an English version. It's called Dirk Gently and the holistic something.
He's in it.
Yeah, he's in it, and it is amazing. It's really weird, but it's fun.
Okay, I'll give you another recommendation from him with him in
yeah?
it. Wilfred.
Is it good?
My
wife liked it.
The imaginary dog.
Yes, and it's a dog in a man suit. The dog talks shit to him.
If you say it's good, I'll watch it. Is it good?
I enjoyed the portions that I saw.
Okay, so I'm gonna check it out then because I really enjoy him. He's a weirdo, and I like that. But
of course, he's Frodo. He's amazing there.
That's his huge big breakout.
He's North. Remember the movie North? The kid who was trying to find his parents. He was going around the world trying to find new parents.
Is that pre-Lord of the Rings?
Oh yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah, he was like a little kid in that one.
Yeah.
Or teenager or something, like early teens.
Was he in the movie with Man Without a Face? Was that him, or was that another kid?
Man Without a Face.
He was in a bunch of stuff.
Mask, are you?
No, not Mask. That's Cher, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not my show.
You turn back time.
I give it all to you.
Oh, Raylene can do a good Cher. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of Muzak when I was a manager for restaurants and a waitress, and I didn't realize that I was always singing along with the music. Right? I didn't realize how often I sang until one day we were really busy, and this guy that I didn't recognize was there with a younger guy, and he said, "How come you're not singing today?" And I go, "Huh? Like what?" And he goes, "I brought my nephew in to see the singing waitress." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was so embarrassed.
I'm the singing waitress.
I'm not even a good singer, guys. I'm like not at all. I mean, trust me. My mom tells me all the time, "Oh, what happened? Your voice is terrible." I'm like, "Yeah, but I have fun."
All right, let's talk about other characters, shall we? Let's talk about Clementine a little bit with her hair color changing with her moods. I almost wanted to introduce you as our Clementine for this episode.
I apply my personality in a paste.
I thought she was a train wreck, a total disaster, and totally a bad fit for a guy like Joel, and that it would never work out between them.
A bad fit?
Terrible fit.
I don't think she's a bad fit for Joel. I think that she just needs to calm down a little bit, stop the drinking, okay? If Clementine stopped the drinking, I think it would be fine. If she realized that Joel just needs to feel safe and secure before he speaks up and shares his mind, and she could pause before replying a little bit, I think they'd be a great couple. He needs to have a little more balls. She needs to actually shut up a little bit and stop taking his silence as that he doesn't love her. The way
so
that
you're thinking the opposites attract, and the different personalities can like bring each other towards the middle a little, mellow each other out.
Yeah, I mean that the truth is that there's a reason why anxious avoidance often end up with anxious attached personalities, and right, that is a real the goal for every person is to get into secure attached. Like that's what everybody should. A healthy person is a secure attached person, but before that, we're usually avoidant or we're clingy, needy, one or the other. Like that's usually, or a combination, which is the fearful avoidance. So my husband was the anxious avoidant. That was totally who he was. And I can imagine both of you guys being probably that. And then I was more of the anxious attached, where like way more needy, like please talk more so I understand, tell me more stuff so I feel like, say the things so I feel like I'm close to you and that you're sharing with me. She said that to him. And right. And the thing is that we think that when our person doesn't, we're attracted to that for a reason. And there is something that it can, if you're not willing to change and adapt, and grow and start to figure out what makes you feel safer, then you're not going to be a good fit because you're unhealthy, and so are they, right? Like, but everybody has to do that. Like, I had to learn that when my husband runs away, it's not because he doesn't care or love me. It's because he needs space to take some time and gather his thoughts, because when everything gets really emotional and big, he's either going to say a bunch of shit he doesn't actually even mean, for real, just everything will come out in a horrible way, or he's afraid of that and he gets really frustrated. And so he needs a minute. So we kind of put in the hacks, right? Like, hey, he finally said, you know what? I remember one time I was like, ask him questions and he starts like yelling at me. I'm like, whoa, like not yelling, but like trying to manage me. And I was like, what are you doing right now? And like, I'm upset, and I'm not even with you. Why are you, like, you're supposed to be on my team. Why are you being all upset right now? And it was my big emotions were so overwhelming for him that he's trying to shut what's going on. No matter how upset I am, I will stop immediately. Like, you have your space, but you have to promise to come back and talk to me, not pretend it didn't happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to promise to come back and talk to me. So that is
a lot of drama that comes along with that you might not otherwise be interested in or know how to deal with, that can be a bit overwhelming for an introvert. Yeah.
But she was dramatic. She was a shit show. You were right.
Yeah. Yeah. She's absolutely. I mean, of course you got to have conflict in these movies, and these are not perfect characters, and that's why we're interested in them and we like them. And we root for them. Yeah, these felt to me like very, I mean, just the genius of Charlie Kaufman's writing. They felt very honest and real characters, that they are flawed, but they're not like, you know, they're not one note. They just, all the dialogue just felt very natural to me. It felt like he was drawing on his own experiences of his early relationships, because he's very much a awkward, nerdy type guy, and I could see why he would be interested in, you know, a manic pixie lady, because they're just so exciting. And there's just a lot of instant attraction to that, because you're not really bringing a whole lot of excitement to the relationship. She's providing it all, but then you also get a whole lot of negatives that you wouldn't necessarily be able to handle.
She was talking to him and it was like, okay. And then she said, I tell you, and then she's like sharing, and it's good. And then when he doesn't really add anything to it, she's like, I tell you everything and you don't trust me. And that was like all these lines. There were so many in the movie that are like this, and it's very telling. It seems like she's saying that about him, and it's true. He doesn't trust himself. It seems like he doesn't trust her, but he actually doesn't trust himself. And not only that, but she doesn't trust herself. That's why she needs him to talk. So, I mean, everything that they were saying about the other person, when she said, well, I'm the nicest guy that she's ever been with, what the heck is this about? Well, are you that nice? Or were you judging her? And were you putting her down? And were you giving her the cold shoulder to feel like you had some semblance of control? Because it's kind of beautiful, actually. Every line in the movie, every moment, I could like break it down psychologically what was going on there, and it's really awesome. It's so real, even though it's so archetypal. Like, they did do the real archetypes, and she's like BPD-ish, you know, like pretty up and down.
Oh yeah, no, she's manic depressive bipolar. Yeah.
And he is so pathetic. But and then you're like, what were their parents like? You know, I mean, his lack of self-confidence is probably not helping the situation at all, you know, because if I'm going to go there, I'm going to get real sexist up in here and say, if Joel felt more confident, he'd be able to actually lead her out of that, and she would be so much more calm and balanced if he felt confident enough to do that. If he was kind of like, hey, let's just do, like, calm down, let's go do this, da 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 da, and he was like with a firm hand and steady voice, and he actually believed in his ability to do that, she needed that, is my, you know, that's my assertion on this.
What did you take on what was it, Parker, Elijah's character?
Patrick.
what was your take on him when he was trying to console her? Because she was obviously upset after going through the whole procedure and being confused. At least that was my take on it.
Yeah.
And he was just kept kind of like repeating these like, no, you are beautiful. You are sexy. You're the most amazing woman I've ever been with, blah, 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 blah. And that wasn't working on her at all. That was just like pinging off the Death Star shields. That was nothing.
Yeah.
What was your take on that? Why didn't that have any effect on her?
Because it was so pathetic and desperate. You can feel energy. People respond so much more to energy than we're all very logical people here. We like things to make sense. We like to go A, then B, then C. We like to go this plus this equals this. Okay. And we rely on that heavily. But we are forgetting that human beings sync up energetically when they're around each other. There's lots of science proving this, that they know that people's heartbeats can syncopate. I mean, this is a thing. Okay. We read each other's energy. The desperation and the falseness, they barely knew each other. All right. They barely knew each other. It didn't add up and it didn't feel right. It was like somebody smelling the wrong way. Like it just didn't make sense. So I think that confusion seems to go along with every trauma that we've ever experienced, which is why this is a bad idea, by the way, erasing your memory and all that. Because if you're going to be confused, and confusion is it's like a PTSD thing. Like if you think about it, when we're traumatized, let's say, something doesn't make sense. You didn't do anything wrong. And then your daycare person just beats the shit out of you, even though you didn't deserve it as a kid. It doesn't make sense. There's always confusion that happens with things that are traumatic. Car accidents, 9/11 probably was very confusing to the people that would just happen to out of nowhere. I mean, it's real. It's like even these little tiny arguments that were, or as something mean happening that a teacher did to a kid in school. It's trauma. And there's always confusion in it. And so she was in confusion. So when we're in confusion, that's when we start freaking out, because confusion, we remember that feeling in us. So that's number one. Number two, somebody could say all the right things, but if it doesn't feel right and doesn't match up, it's like an audio being off from the movie. You know what I mean? You know, their lips are saying the words at the wrong time. Doesn't that annoy you? Like,
yeah, no, that's how I kind of interpret it. It's like, no, you're saying the right things, but it just sounds wrong to me. And I want to go to the place where I remember that I felt great at and is just like true to me. And that's why they went to that frozen lake again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so she was trying to make sense of this thing. And there is memory. So just because they got rid of the emotion and then you forget it, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. We have muscle memory. I think that we have like spiritual memory too. I think that, when you look at the practice of like EMDR and these different therapeutics that people are doing, they're now seeing that your body remembers, even if your brain doesn't. Your body remembers. Now, we store trauma in our bodies. And so there are things that you can do to unlock the trauma and release it from your body, and you can be less sick. You can cure your ADHD just because of things that happen that you've moved through. But because the impact of trauma is very confusing, and then your brain tries to make sense out of it, right? So a lot of times it'll be missing pieces of information. We also make decisions about ourselves and create ideas to justify that trauma. So like my mom, she decided to leave us after the divorce from my dad. She goes to Korea and leaves us. And then it was like, well, you moved to your dad, so why should I stick around? She said that, And so that's a trauma. And then what are the ego things that we start to believe to justify it? Like, well, then I'm not lovable. I'm not worth staying for. This is what I get for wanting to have clothes that fit and food and heat, and wanting to live at this house. So these things didn't happen. This is what I get for being selfish and wanting something. My mom is going to leave. Like, those are the things that you do believe about yourself. And every child has done it. If I complain, then it makes people not love me or want to protect me. Like everybody has them. Every single
Right.
person.
This is like a kid's thing, right? Like children of divorce will often blame themselves for the divorce, things like that. And this is one of those things that you wouldn't want to erase because you also learn so much from going through this.
And you want to go back and be able to fix it, because if you have those beliefs, you're going to still walk away with those beliefs about yourself regardless. So you have to be able to go back and fix it. But it's not just kids. It happens with adults also a lot of times if you don't process all of it, you know? Like everybody is walking around with those original traumas and as kids thinking that nobody sees me, so I might as well not even exist. Or if I speak up, then I'm a problem and then nobody likes me. Or, I mean, this is true. This is what every kid does this. And then all we're doing in life is trying to fit the world as we're experiencing it into those beliefs until we actually challenge those beliefs and discard them. Like that is what we're all doing.
Do you think that that's what they were going for in the movie with that lack of being comforted by Patrick with Clementine? Or was it more... I looked at it as more of a literal thing. Like they couldn't erase everything. There's still something there.
The memory was there. That's what I mean. Is still in her body. I think that it was that she still knew. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
still
like
knew.
they deleted what they were aware of to delete, but they couldn't, get everything because obviously there's a lot more going on than whatever technology they were using. Maybe they needed the Men in Black thing.
It's too hard to do in this movie. I mean, this movie is a concept, and the truth is that they could never get it completely literal because we start to mispronounce words and have phrases that we've picked up from these people. I mean, really, it's we're an organic machine that does a lot with the influences we have around us, especially if there's something as powerful as love involved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Robert, did you find that you identify with Joel a bit in the introverted kind of style? I think Kaufman had said that he wrote that character a little bit autobiographical. So it's supposed to represent himself a bit.
Yeah, that definitely came across. From what I've seen of Kaufman, he definitely strikes me as this was an autobiographical type of thing. For me, Joel he reminded me of myself in my 20s. Just trying to make sense of the world, trying to make sense of relationships of, what does this woman want? I don't understand her a lot of the time.
Because you take them literally instead of trying to read between the lines of what they're really doing, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the way that men and women communicate differently, that's a big mystery to men, even up until death. So let alone a man in his 20s trying to make sense of the world, and especially with such a different personality type than him, right? I mean, she's...
and this is the problem, is that it feels like everything's a trick with, like, I'm telling you, these women, this is toxic femininity. I mean, but what did those women learn? That they're not allowed to ask for things in a straightforward manner. And that what they ask for is what is allowed in our culture. Right? They're allowed to demand flowers on this stupid holiday. They don't want flowers on that holiday. They want to feel loved and appreciated, and they don't feel like they can ask for that because it's either too vulnerable or they're just naggy or they're embarrassed or whatever. So instead, they make a big fucking deal about flowers on Valentine's Day. It's so stupid. No one's telling the truth. The guys aren't telling the truth. The girls aren't telling the truth. No one's being vulnerable in the right way.
Right. Because we're all doing what's safe.
Are we going Inception deep on this? Because I've always experienced that a girl will say, no, you don't need to get me flowers. And then you don't because that's what they said.
Yeah.
But then you get in trouble for doing what they said.
That's the grossest thing I've ever heard. That's gross. Listen, I'm a cool girl. No, I definitely was a girl that went the opposite way, that tried too hard to be a cool girl because of the way my dad talked about women. And so I would never let a guy pay for dinner for me because I didn't want to be called a gold digger. I I never complained about how I was treated ever because I didn't want to be a naggy woman. So I kind of went the opposite way with the internalized misogyny stuff, like those concepts, right? But then there's a point where, but I've always been pretty straightforward about, like not wanting birthday stuff. And you know why I said I didn't want anything for my birthday? I really don't care about my birthday stuff, right? And but the reason I went so hard on not getting anything for my birthday was because I'm bad at birthdays, and I forgot my husband's birthday and he got his feelings hurt. So I pretended like I don't care about any birthdays at all. I'm not lying. This is a real story. And so we were working together, and I waited, and it was like noon before I realized it was his birthday when he was cooking on the back of the line. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, well, I don't even care about birthdays, so whatever. So then I had to like stick to that for a long time. And then there was like 3 years in a row where I didn't get any Mother's Day presents, and I don't care about presents. That's the thing. I don't care about it. But on the third year in a row of not getting any happy birthday or happy Mother's Day on any level, and I was having a hard time in my life. And I think that the hard time, I was not feeling appreciated. Okay. I wasn't feeling very connected for a while there with him, and he was busy and working a lot. I mean, just that kind of stuff. And so I think it was like a perfect recipe. So the birthday became symbolic. Now all of a sudden I need this thing. So on the third year of eating shit from the years before, I finally go, I've changed my mind, and I want you to do something for my birthday because I'm feeling very unappreciated, and I am never going to say that again. And the thing is, what did I ask for this birthday? Nothing, because I don't care about it. I'm happy. It's all stupid.
All right,
The
so
flowers are stupid.
I think now I'm confused because, like,
none of it matters.
What's your husband supposed to do now, though? Because rather than admit that you came up with this thing to cover for an error on your part,
he knows the truth. I like the whole thing's hilarious. I tell the truth. I'm not a liar. I'm like, I kind of like try to like embarrassingly make it like, what's the big deal? Like I was downplaying it, but. I mean, the truth is I was just embarrassed. He laughed his ass off when I told him, but the truth is, if a girl says you don't need to do that, you don't see that you don't need to do that. Oh, but I don't feel like I don't know if I'm worth it is what they're probably doing when they're saying you don't need to. But if they go, no, I don't want flowers, then that means no, don't get them flowers.
See, I'm always playing that GIF from Star Wars. It's a trap.
It's a trap. It is an ego trap, and it's a test, and I don't approve. I do not approve. This is what I want to be doing my podcast about is games like this. What do they really mean? Why are we having them? Because women want to be taken seriously, then maybe they should act seriously. Like, say what you mean. But what happens is if they actually say, I really, really just want to feel like you took the time to do something because you wanted to. I want you to want to. That's what women aren't saying. I want you to want to. I want you to want to. And that's what they're so vulnerable and afraid to say. They're just so afraid to do it. Or they say it like a total bitch, and then you don't take it away what you need to as a guy, right? And a lot of guys get in their heads, oh, I got to do this thing. Our anniversary's coming up. I got to do this thing. And then they don't do anything because they're paralyzed in fear of fucking it up and making a mistake. Right? So all this pressure. Why does everything have to be a surprise? There's a really sick, nasty thing about gifts, birthdays, anniversaries, and presents and things like this. Okay. Why do the men have to be the ones that surprise the women for their anniversary? Isn't it both of their dates? Yes. Number one. Let's just take that off of their shoulders right now. This is bullshit. This is all from media and movies. I'm telling you. I've got it pegged. It should just be two people going, what do you want to do for the anniversary together? Should we give each other a secret present, or should we just go spend all of our money on this one thing that we go do together at this concert and then go camping and do this, da-da-da-da? That's just a fucking discussion that should just be had. It should not be anyone's job to surprise another person for their holiday. That is weird. That's too much pressure for men. That's a problem. Okay. So women are just setting themselves up to be disappointed, and men are just being set up to be failures, feel like failures, be scared, and fuck it up ahead of time because they can't handle the pressure. This is just wrong. I should be a relationship coach, right? I mean, I'm good at this.
Or you could write movies.
Yeah, maybe. I was writing a movie for a while. It was pretty funny.
Romantic comedy?
It was a mockumentary. The cameraman had Tourette's. It was very funny. It's very funny. the very emotional scenes, and then all of a sudden they're just saying this crazy shit in the background with the cameraman. It was hilarious. And there's this one scene where the main character is just sitting there trying to drink a milkshake, but it was too thick. And it was the funniest thing ever in my mind. I was writing this movie. It was great. There's a lot of scenes, but not a cohesive movie put together. I never finished it.
It sounds like a good premise for like a sketch, like a skit, like a
Yeah.
short segment. Like, you know how they'll Saturday Night Live will have a decent sketch and then they'll turn it into a movie.
Yeah.
And it'll be like 89 minutes with 20 minutes of like good content and then the rest filler.
Yeah.
Should not have gone beyond a
more
sketch.
like a running gag, like Arrested Development style is
Mhm.
what I was doing. But there was like a lot of little sketches in it. You know, like Basketball had a bunch of little sketches in it.
I haven't seen that in so long, but
It really didn't hold up. I loved that movie for a long time, but it's not funny to me anymore like it was.
people tell me Orgasmo holds up.
Does it?
I don't know.
I mean, you don't like comedies, Robert, or you just don't like discussing comedies?
I love comedies. I love laughing. This is what I'm talking about. But Daniel was just talking about how Saturday Night Live sketches that get turned into movies. And one of the other movies we were supposed to do with you tonight was Wayne's World. So if you want to pitch me on why Wayne's World would make a great episode, I mean, I'm down to talk to you about the weather, but you know, Wayne's World, I think there's just so much more with the movie we're doing.
I gave you options. I said, these are, like, you got options. I said, what do you want to do? Here's some movies. You pick. You're welcome. But I know you don't like doing comedies. You do say that, but it makes sense. Some comedy, I like to actually kind of really break down the genealogy of humor. Okay. It's really fun to go back and watch old movies like The Jerk and or just comedies throughout the decades and how comedy has changed, and there's real evolution. And I've always kind of wanted to do a documentary on it a long time ago. Again, didn't finish anything. But I think that the history of comedy is really fascinating, and I really like seeing where it goes. I mean, there's still some themes, but there are flavor changes, and what makes people laugh. Even physical comedy's changed, right?
Definitely.
And so observational comedy, but the deliveries have changed and their styles, and I think that's really interesting. So I do like talking about that kind of thing regarding comedy. Yeah.
I think we could do any episode and it would be good, but I think there's just more to work with here. That's all I'm saying.
Me too. This is one of my favorite movies. And I know, Dan, you tease me about every movie being my favorite. It's not every movie's my favorite, but my favorites are my favorites. You know what I mean?
Right. And like I tell my kids, favorite means you've picked one out of many. But they have many favorites as well.
You can favor many flavors of ice cream.
You can't favorite more than one.
Really? You can't have a tie between Rocky Road and mint chocolate chip?
Maybe I'll give you that on a technicality, but not everything can be your favorite. Otherwise, it loses all its meaning.
Well, not everything can be your favorite because bubblegum ice cream is disgusting. It's disgusting. That's disgusting. First of all, there's bubblegum in it and it's frozen. That's a shit show. Okay? That's just a mess. Just stop. But then the ice cream around it is flavored bubblegum. That's gross. I had a bubblegum high C as a kid, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life. It tasted like vomit. For real. So bubblegum stuff is out. Not my favorite, Dan.
Okay, good. We found one thing that doesn't qualify.
Yeah.
Robert, where do you want to take us in this movie, or do you want to also pile on bubblegum flavoring?
Mm-hmm.
You know, bubblegum flavoring, I could take it or leave it. In fact, I just had a very, very yummy bubblegum flavored Jelly Belly. Yeah, Raylene.
You don't have to swallow your bubblegum. That's just wrong. You chew it up and then you swallow it. You know that's wrong. I know it's wrong. We both know.
It passes like a week later. You're not hurting yourself.
I can't make myself swallow it because I know it's not supposed to do that. Is this my autism right now? Because it's a thing. I'm certain I'm on the spectrum. And as a kid, I remember it really clearly, like for sure. But you're not supposed to swallow your bubblegum.
It's candied. It's bubblegum flavored candy. It's delicious.
Okay. I
The
still love you.
experts at Jelly Belly, are you calling into question the experts of flavor and deliciousness at Jelly Belly?
The pear is really good. Do you like the popcorn one too?
No,
You crazy?
popcorn is garbage trash. You throw that in the garbage.
Okay.
You throw that away.
Mm.
They don't know everything.
Okay. All right. So I'm hearing you have a conflicted relationship with the authority of Jelly Belly. You are
I'm
like
just
that though. You can argue both sides of everything, and I know you both can, but you're
Yes.
specifically like that. Yeah. So
Yeah, he
my husband,
debunked his own argument. I love it.
I know.
don't know.
My husband's the same way. I find it really charming. Okay. So Joel's fear is that he is forgettable, right? The both of them just seem to be acting out what they're both very afraid of in this whole movie. And I just want to point that out. And because here's a theme here, and I want to share this with you because you're going to notice it in everybody you know. So we have these internalized fears that are based on our own pain bodies, right? And whenever somebody is in an insecure place, it's like they're in another dimension. And whatever they're afraid of with regard to their own ego, like of not being enough or afraid of losing somebody, it's almost like when they get enveloped in that fear and it starts motivating their actions and what they're doing and their behavior, they start to literally create the very thing they're afraid of. And I just want you to watch people like that with when they're rooted, it's rooted in some sort of insecurity or something, what their fears are and what they're doing. It's like they actually start to create it. If somebody's afraid of being abandoned, what do? They come on so strong that people want to run away. Okay. People like that's a thing. Or when we're so afraid we're going to screw it up, then we start to get micromanaging and start getting controlling or whatever it might be. And then we end up screwing it up. Just keep an eye on it because that's a real one. And so Joel's fear is being forgettable. And it's what he talks about. And so it clamps him down. And then he literally is embodying that. And I would dare say that Clementine is very afraid and aware that she's too much. So what does she do? She becomes too much, trying to run from that idea, from that fear. She's just
Again, to identify with Joel, what you just said, being afraid that you're not memorable. I don't know if I would call it memorable, but I remember hanging out at parties and worrying that what I had to say wasn't going to be very funny or very interesting or anything like that. So I just wouldn't say anything.
exactly.
And in the end, then you end up being the forgettable guy at the party.
Exactly. And so I have a lot of introverted friends, obviously. That's why we get along so well, you guys, because I get it. And I love that. I'm all about that internal world. I want to hear about it and I want to know about it, but I don't need it. I don't need it like need it. But there's something really sacred about an introvert who feels safe with you because they do share their innermost thoughts and they don't worry about what it seems like or being misunderstood. It's a big one, being misunderstood too. And like, I personally think it's really sad because the people that are extroverted think that they have to perform to get their needs met or that they have to be a certain way. And it's just how they have perceived the world from when they were children. And then they're just acting that out and just trying to be loved. That's it. Everyone's trying to have that. Be liked, seen, accepted for who they are and known, understood. I mean, that's what everybody wants. It's wild how we
Absolutely.
all process it in a different way because as a kid that was outgoing and asked for things, a lot of times they wouldn't get their needs met. So then they just feel like they have to go out there and take it. Or, I mean, it's weird, but it's all a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to tie this back to the movie just a little bit. And the thing that you mentioned that Joel's biggest fear was being forgotten. And what does Clementine do almost on a lark?
Yeah.
She goes out of her way to forget him, which is like the most cutting thing that she could possibly do to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that makes him mad enough to go and do it back to her in this sort of like vengeance kind of thing. But he was also like really suffering as a result. So he was not only looking at revenge, but also at relief.
Yeah.
Not having to go through that.
Wasn't hers also relief though? Well, we don't really get a whole lot of information. We kind of have to infer it. We don't get like actual scenes where they break up.
Forget him. The whole fucking thing is a lie, and the ego is a lie, and it is never true. He wasn't forgettable because she had to go get a service to do it. So the whole thing, I mean, you really look at it, and
Kind of a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah, like if he had looked at it that way, then maybe he wouldn't have gone through with it. But I think that the only real discussion about her motivation for doing it was when he was talking to that couple. David Cross was one of the people playing them, and they were in a kind of a unhappy relationship.
I thought that was beautifully done, by the way.
Yeah, but they said, well, you know her. I mean, she'll just do wild shit, just to do it. Just the impulsiveness. So that's another thing that might have been like driving him to not draw that conclusion that you just came up with, Raylene, where he wasn't forgettable. So she went and got this procedure done. Well, that could have been the reason. It also could have just been that, she was like, well, I could get a tattoo or I could go do this weird procedure, like just some kind of like wild hair kind of thing.
Yeah. How did you take her Clementine's behavior there? How did you interpret that, Raylene?
I think that Clementine is a person who is running from her pain all the time. This is my assessment. I think Clementine runs from her pain. That's why she has to constantly shake something up and stimulate things to distract herself from that. She's also a drinker. It shows that. And so that is, she's at an emotional maturity of when she started drinking, whenever that was. So because it seems like it's out of control. And then she was pushing him at the end when she was like daring him to be mad and saying, oh, you just don't know where I was if I fuck somebody. Okay. She was trying to have drama because she's creating something that she's always had and used to. So that's what's comfortable, is the drama. So she keeps creating that over and over and over again. So I feel for her. I think that somebody like that doesn't stay with somebody for 2 years in a separate apartment where they're like, she's not getting anything from him financially. I was taking in all the data, trust me. And I'm thinking she's still living an independent life in her own apartment. His house was full of things of her. She's drinking out of a mug with her own face on it with him. Like, I'm like, there's a lot in this relationship. This is a pretty, they were in love, like for real in love. And she's not using him. So she was with him for 2 whole years. And somebody like that, being with somebody for 2 whole years, is kind of a big deal, especially because he wasn't paying her bills, and there was no reason to stay. There was no kids or anything. Any reason to stay otherwise. So she would have. And then when she was like, I'm not like that, I'm not a slut, it sounds like he was afraid she was a slut. And that's what he kind of projected on her. Like at the very end, she's like, it's not true about me. It hurts me that you would say that. And he's like, I know it's not true about you. And I think it's true. I think she's afraid that I think before she was afraid that she was a slut. And I don't think she was with him. And I don't think she was doing that. But for some reason she was stirring it up. I think she just needed to see an emotional reaction from him to feel like it mattered, because that's what she was used to. That's what I think. So ultimately, when she erased him, it was probably like, if I don't, I'll stay forever. I won't be able to leave him. I think she was kind of daring herself to get out. Does that make sense?
Did she recognize that the relationship, either they were incapable of making it work or it just was not right ever? Or I don't know. I understand the idea of running away from pain, but to be with someone for 2 years and then to get into an argument, and I'm sure they've had many arguments over those 2 years.
Yeah.
They show a few of them in the movie, but to just, walk out of that apartment and then just go get him erased. I mean, I get it. She's an impulsive character, but there had to have been, things leading up to that would take her. That's such a drastic measure. It's so drastic. I guess I don't understand the idea that you would just basically throw that person away and everything they ever were to you. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she did say that she didn't like who she was when she was with him at that point. So she talked about her own self-loathing by the end of that relationship, and how that she didn't like that she was such a bitch. She didn't like that she was so testy all the time.
Right.
So
I can understand that.
I think a lot of it came from self-loathing. I think it was all self-punishment, to be honest with you. I think it was.
Did you think that the flea market scene where she starts talking about wanting to have kids and he is like sort of, I don't know, maybe, we're not ready to have the conversation right now, and then she blows up at him there? Do you think that that was like her setting another trap? Like,
Yeah.
the idea of bringing up the kids, do you think that she was intending like maybe having kids would make this relationship work, or was the whole thing just a trap to get into a fight with him about something that seems, like a big deal and important?
I don't think she intends. I don't think she thinks that far ahead. I think it's more intuitive with the fighting with her, personally, and just the way they wrote the characters. So I think that she was just talking out loud like she always does. And then it was a moment where they could like dream sesh about having kids someday. Right. And then he was literally playing out her worst fears, that he would not want to have kids with her. And then I think it was a mirror that he inadvertently was holding up a mirror to her and showing her that he doesn't feel like she could have kids, and all of her self-doubt came involved. And then she got really aggressive. I think that's what she does. I think every time he doesn't respond in a certain way, she's reading the room and then assigning intent and what he must be thinking, and then fights with him about that. And that's why she just flips, and with a little like emotional regulation issues, obviously. So that's what I think, because I don't think it started out that way. I think it started out sweet, and then when he was reacting the way he was, she started figuring out that he doesn't want to have kids with her, and then she's like, well, he doesn't trust me to, why wouldn't he? And then she's thinking all the things about herself that would make her a bad mom.
Right. But if I go to Occam's razor, like we talked about in Contact a few weeks ago, Robert, I got to think that maybe he just doesn't want to talk about it right then at the flea market. I mean, isn't that the more simple explanation than this whole, like, this all means all these other terrible things? You don't think I'm going to be a good mother, all that stuff.
Well, that's all going through her head, right?
Yeah.
But for him, it could be every bit. It's just as simple as, let's just not talk about this right now in this space, right at this moment. Let's talk about it later. But it also could be that, he recognizes or sees something in her or in their relationship together that they are not in the right space mentally or physically to start a family.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you ever feel ready. I know I didn't feel ready.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions for both of you guys, since you guys have both had families. And I know Raylene had started her family young, but Daniel started later in life, but still you didn't feel ready, huh?
Well, obviously more ready than had I done it earlier. But yeah, I mean, we wanted to be more situated than we were. But it worked out. Things have a way of you rise to the occasion, Yeah,
your priorities change and you get your shit together. Right?
Yeah. I wasn't ready, but I did a great job for not being ready, I have to say. I wish I would have known a lot more about trauma work, and I wish I would have known about potentially repeating some of the things that happened with me as a kid. I think it was too much of an authoritarian. I cared too much about what other people thought. But where I parented intuitively, which is really from a loving, compassionate place, when I did a good job. I was very protective of my kids in a good way, and I did a good job. But was I ready financially? No. Was I ready? Like all these other things? No. But I have zero regrets. The best things I ever did were having my kids. Like I love that I stopped caring about accomplishing certain things as an ego identification or a way to make my family proud. Because this is the best thing I've ever done. And now I think I'm an even better mom than I was before, because I did make mistakes, and like the working through any of the trauma that I put on my older kids who are adults now, my two older, it means so much. Like, we're actually healing all the timelines together, or I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. When I said that, like one time I said, like, she was just talking to me, my oldest Audrey, she said, yeah, one time you said, I didn't do this to my parents. And I'm like, I was like, first of all, I don't remember saying that, but I believe you 100%. And what an asshole. I'm so sorry. And I had to break it down. I go, no matter what my intentions were, it was to shut you down. I go, and two, I never said anything to my parents and ever defended myself. I go, what was that even supposed to mean? Like, you're supposed to be like me, and like, this is crap. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm really sorry. And then we got to work through that together, and she feels like she can talk to me about that, which is awesome. So I have to say, parenting's fun. It's awesome. You learn a lot. And if you take every moment as an opportunity to be your best self, and then you're going to be a good parent. You just have to be you have to be ready to eat a lot of shit. You have to eat a lot of shit. You got to work through your own bullshit to be a good parent, in my opinion. So, right?
Yep. And be used to being tired.
Yeah.
Definitely used to that. Well, hey, we are probably a little bit extra long already on this episode, so we should do any final notes and then summary and review.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything that I had.
Okay, well, why don't you lead us off, and then tell me how many memories you will erase out of 10 for your score.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I like it. So Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind by Charlie Kaufman and Michel Gondry. Fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, go out and check it out. It's a very intimate portrait of two very flawed characters that are on this roller coaster romance, and they make a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure you have in your life as well, and I think you will identify with these characters. It's a very personal, revealing story that gets pretty raw. So it asks the question, what if you had the ability to completely forget about somebody and to remove all the pain of thinking about them? Would you really want to? When the memories of the good times only bring you pain, is it worth it in the end to eliminate them? And this movie basically just takes you on that ride of having like instant buyer's remorse. It's like, oh wait, this is what this means? Oh shit, no, stop, don't do it. I don't know. I want to remember this stuff. And it's just, and the main character actually has like, they have a problem to solve, right? And his memories are actively being deleted. So where does he hide memories of the love of his life in his memories so that these scientist people won't find them? It's such a clever plot that you're not gonna get this in some conglomerate Hollywood production. This is going to come from some brilliant mind getting together with other talented, crazy, awesome directors and filmmakers, and just having the run of the show, right? Not having some studio interference. They'll just give you some money and go do something brilliant with it, and they did. And I'm glad they did. And I should probably check out more of Kaufman's work. I've always enjoyed. I think I've seen Adaptation, is a long time ago, and I've seen Malkovich, of course. But I think this is my favorite of what I've seen, and this deserves everybody's attention. Deserves a wider audience, like I said. And I will give this 9 memories out of 10. It's amazing that they cast against type and it works so well. This is at a time when Jim Carrey was famous for being the rubber funny man, and he plays the straight guy to Titanic's manic fun lady, and it works awesome. And yeah, I highly recommend it to everybody.
Oh, high praise from Robert. Yeah, and I think the having them play against type was probably beneficial to the result that they got. I was reading a little bit about the production end of it, and Jim Carrey did not enjoy making this film because they let everyone else ad lib and be wherever they wanted to be, sort of within the scene, but they made him play it very straight, literal, and to the script, no ad libbing.
Smart.
So it's like putting a constraint on him, and that made him kind of
repressed.
present himself in a certain way. And then also when he met with, I think the director, when they were talking about making the film, Jim Carrey had just gone through like a big breakup, like himself, and they were talking about doing this movie, and I think it was Michel, the director, was like, "How you are right now, be like that for the movie." And they didn't shoot the movie for like another year. So Jim Carrey was like, "That's how fucked up this business is. They want to take your pain and have you hold on to it to be able to portray the the scenes and all that." But I'll just echo a lot of your sentiments. I think that this is really well done, and it's a bit of a mind bender a little bit, but I also enjoy how they put you into the movie. And you don't really know what's going on. You think that these are just two strangers meeting on the train spontaneously and going and doing this thing. And then it sort of works backwards. It's almost got a Memento kind of thing going on, where more and more is revealed as you go along. But it does end up really compactly and neatly squared away by the end. And I think that it's both, like we said earlier, it's a shallow kind of linear story, but they go very far, into the sides of it, the depths of it, and I think that they pulled off exceedingly well, and that this will stand the test of time. It's a great movie, and I do highly recommend it. So I'm also going to give it 9 erased memories out of 10.
Oh, and I need to mention, Kate Winslet's so charming in this movie that I was just like had a total crush on her the whole time. Even when she was being crazy, a little bit less of a crush when she was being crazy, but when they like meet on the train and like on the beach and she's being all cute and stuff. Yeah. Big fan points here. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. She's an amazing actress. My daughter just dyed her hair orange, and she sent me a picture yesterday and it said Clementine hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the universe is speaking. I loved it. So I just want y'all to know that it was awesome because I literally watched it yesterday. All right. So I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever. I think it's one of the most romantic movies that's ever been made because it shows such a spectrum of emotions that you can have, including the ugly parts. And I think that it is so much more real than any other thing that I've ever seen on TV or on a movie for romance and love. And I really like the depth of it all. Mary, which is the receptionist, has this little side story, and she's in the room when they're erasing his brain, and she talks about how babies are so pure and free. Those are the words she uses. And then about how adults are this ball of anxiety and a mess of phobias, right? And I thought that's a really wonderful little gem that they put in that movie. And because they are talking about trauma and what happens with that and what we do with it. And it was so beautifully done. So they make a case for a lot of different options. Like they show that people are going to continue to make the same choices if they forget. They show that people are going to love who they're going to love, and there's a reason why that they are attracted to them. They also give us hope that even if it ended poorly before, if you do the work, it might still be worth it, and you might be able to actually have a happy ending. And I know that the happy ending is a reality because my husband and I did that. And it was I am so happy in my relationship, and we've been together for almost 20 years, and I can't believe how happy I am. So I love that this movie has a little bit of something for everybody, and there's such a good takeaway for different people finding what they needed to in this. And I'm going to give it 10 out of 10 because I don't know if there's been a better movie made.
Wow. Very high. Perfect
Universal
movie.
praise on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare indeed. Well, Raylene, thanks again for coming on. I hope you can stick around for a little bit of the bonus content. You were already on for about an hour before we even got started on the episode. So Patreon supporters will get a bunch of extra content out of this one. And people go to lastnighters.com/Patreon to get in on that action. And Robert, next week, we're going to stick in the theater of the absurd as we talk about Stranger Than Fiction, which has sort of a side adjacent, like, sort of premise, like breaking a lot of walls of
third wall breaking and that kind of thing,
magic.
right?
It's magical. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, and we're gonna have Rachel Kennerly of Cannabis Heals Me, and she also has another show she does now called Just Add Liberty. Both shows are excellent, and she is also a CPA, and so we're going to have a lot of like tax related talk, as Stranger Than Fiction, of course, stars Will Ferrell as an IRS agent, and the bakery owner gives him a few choice words, which I think I will be standing up and cheering as I watch this movie this week in preparation for.
And it's another movie with a rubber funny man and a straight roll, right?
Yep. Will Ferrell playing it very, very straight. So it's almost like we're doing a theme without intending to, but that's fine with me.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, the sad turtle. Did you know if you Google sad turtle, Maggie Gyllenhaal's face comes up?
Oh,
She's really cute though. What is her podcast name again? Her new one?
Just Add Liberty.
Thanks. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, it's got a nice 50s kitsch kind of graphics and whatnot. And she's a great guest, and she does a nice job on her show. So I'm looking forward to that. And anyway, Robert, what can people do to support the show here other than the old Patreon and buying things from your old website there?
Yeah, buying things, going to the website, trepster.com, clicking like and subscribe, sharing all the social media things. You can interact with us, ask us questions. And the most important thing, I think Raylene talks about this a lot. If you follow her on Facebook, please do that if you haven't already. But yeah, just live your life. It's something I keep harping on, but you got to go out there and just be the normal human being. You got to be the adult in the room. When everybody else is being crazy, someone's got to be the sane human being. So go out there and act like we've always done as human beings. All the craziness of 2020 doesn't disappear, or it doesn't erase the old-timey home remedies, the common sense when it comes to what you do when you're sick. Why you just stay home when you're sick and you get over it, and then you go back and live your life. It doesn't, just because some asshole in Atlanta or Washington says the word pandemic doesn't mean all the old common sense just gets thrown out the window. So just live your life, and we'll be the leaders, and then they can follow us and live by our example. So that would be the greatest thing. Help us be more free in our lifetimes. That's what the show's all about. It's all about liberty. And that's what I have to say about that.
All right. Well said, Robert. And with that, we're going to say goodnight from last night, everyone. We'll see you guys all next week for Stranger Than Fiction. Peace out.